What's up, everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel for a study guide video on the book of 1 John. I have 3 themes that I noticed as I made my way through this book. This whole video series on my channel is a part of my summer 2018 Read with Anna Bible reading plan. But if you're in the future and it's past 2018, you can still use these videos to kind of get you excited about getting into these specific books of the New Testament, because I have made one for every single book. And I always link a playlist of them at the very end of the video in a card right about here. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the 3 themes that I noticed as I was reading this book. The first theme is the love of God, and I want to break that down even further into it's the love of God for us and the love of God in us for God and for other people. So I know that's kind of a lot, but I'm going to read some verses to you to help make that more clear. So when we talk about the love of God, I want to read from the book of 1 John, because that's the book we're in, chapter 4, and I want to read verses 16 through 21 to you guys, and it says this: "And so we know and rely on the love God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in him. In this way, love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. Because in this world, we are like him. There is no fear in love. But perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. We love because he first loved us. If anyone says, 'I love God,' yet hates his brother, he is a liar. For anyone who does not love his brother, whom he has seen, cannot love God, whom he has not seen. And he has given us this command: whoever loves God must also love his brother." So if you listened carefully to those verses as I was reading them, you notice those 3 little subcategories on the love of God. The love of God for us and the love of God in us for him and for other people. So that's the first theme. The second theme I noticed when I was reading through this book is the theme of "this is how we know." And you will see that phrase over and over and over. In fact, I took notes on not every single reference where we see that phrase, "this is how we know," but on a lot of them. And there are tons. And so I want to read like 5 or 6 of them to you guys. I just wrote down the excerpts right here. In chapter 2, verses 5 and 6, we read this: "This is how we know we are in him," and that's referring to Jesus. "Whoever claims to live in him must walk as Jesus did." Then in chapter 2, verse 18, we read, "This is how we know it is the last hour." And if you want to know more about that, you can go read that whole verse in context. Chapter 3, verse 10, "This is how we know who the children of God are and who the children of the devil are." And it goes on and explains. Chapter 3, verse 16, "This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us." And it goes on. Chapter 3, verse 19, "This then is how we know that we belong to the truth and how we set our hearts at rest in his presence." Chapter 4, verse 6, "This is how we recognize the spirit of truth and the spirit of falsehood." That right there is spiritual discernment. So when you're talking about this whole phrase of "this is how we know," I think the book of 1 John is it's an awesome book for a new Christian to read and study as kind of a starter book, because it really gives a lot of like, this is how we know. If you have questions, which we all have questions, if you need answers to questions, you can find those, a lot of them, in this book. The third and final theme that I noticed in this book is the theme of continue, which is a big word for me because continue is the name of my digital devotional magazine that I have over on Patreon. Continue is the word that kind of like encapsulates what my ministry and the work I do here on YouTube is all about. It's about continuing, because Colossians 2:6 says, "And now, just as you accepted Christ Jesus as Lord, you must continue to follow him. Let your roots grow down into him. Let your lives be built on him." In this book, in 1 John, we read the word continue multiple different times, but there's kind of a contrast in this book where John is talking about, you're supposed to be continuing in Jesus, and if you are not continuing in Jesus and you are continuing in sin, in acting in sinful ways, there's a problem. And so it's like this description of how we're supposed to continue and how we are not supposed to be continuing. And I want to go ahead and read one of the verses from chapter 2 that kind of make that more clear. Verse 28 says this: "And now, dear children, continue in him, so that when he appears, we may be confident and unashamed before him at his coming." There's a lot in this book about continuing in Jesus, continuing in the truth. Then I'm going to jump over to chapter 5, verse 18, and that says, "We know that anyone born of God does not continue to sin. The one who was born of God keeps him safe, and the evil one cannot harm him. And so that word right there, continue to sin, that is not how you're supposed to be living as a Christian. There are several different references to that specific type of continuing in this book. Then for just one quick little bonus thing, I found a verse in here that I really wanted to share with you guys. It doesn't necessarily have to do with any of those three themes, but I think it's a really important verse for new Christians to understand. And it says this in 1 John chapter 5 verse 19. It says, "We know that we are children of God, and that the whole world is under the control of the evil one." When someone asks, why do bad things happen to good people, I think you can look at that verse and get a lot of understanding. If you've ever had a question about, hey, this person was a child of God and this bad thing happened to them, well, they live in a world that is still under the control of the evil one. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there as a bonus thought for you guys. I hope that was interesting for you, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you noticed anything different in the book of 1 John. There was a ton of themes in this book. We talk about the light, the truth, believing, knowing God, knowing the truth. There's so many themes in this book, so I'd love to hear the ones that really were emphasized to you as you read. And I will see you guys in another video tomorrow on the book of 2 John. Thanks for watching, and talk to you then. Okay, bye.